Welcome back. Another episode of the Whole Nine Yards here on what's today? Thursday evening.
Yeah.
Couple big things happened. We'll start with the Yu Darvish trade. Obviously, Padres acquiring another elite pitcher. Brandon, first reactions.
Yeah. I think, kind of like the Snell one, it was kind of surprising, at least that he was going to get traded. Maybe not to some people. Kind of depends on how you look at it, but his contract, I think, is 3 years, 59 million. So it's almost like Snell's in that it's, you could say it's a lot of money. I think it's basically $20 million a year, but he's a guy who finished second in Cy Young last year, and by the stats, he really could have won the Cy Young. So I know he's 34, but he's still one of the best pitchers in the league. And we'll talk about the return in a second, but they really didn't get much for him. Their GM came out and said that it wasn't a salary dump, which is, obviously it is. If you look at the trade, there's no doubt that they were trading him because the Cubs realize that their window is gone, so they're trying to trade salary, get under the luxury tax. So that's the reason why they traded him, because if they were trying to win, then they obviously wouldn't have traded him, because one of their problems last year was pitching, and he was really their only good pitcher. So it was obviously a salary dump. So obviously they traded him to the Padres, like we just said, after they got Blake Snell. So they traded him and his personal catcher, Victor Carantini, who was their backup catcher, but he was actually pretty productive for the Cubs last year. They traded him for an MLB pitcher, Zach Davies, he's like a 4-5 starter on most teams. He'll give you innings, but he's not going to do anything else really. And they got 4 prospects who aren't really top prospects in the Padres system. They're only one of them's even played professional baseball, and the other 3 rather just got signed or were just drafted. So it's definitely something that's, it's a high risk, because you don't know if any of these guys are even going to become MLB players while you're trading a Cy Young candidate to another team. You're really not getting much in advance or much in return. So it's definitely, maybe a head scratching trade in the return that you got, but I don't know. I would say Cubs fans definitely aren't happy about it, because this means that your team's going to be bad for the next 4 or 5 years, while the Padres are. I said it last week that they're going to be one of the best teams. This probably solidifies that they'll be definitely top 5 team in the MLB, and could be like a top 3 team across the MLB.
The Padres rotation is now insane, and not this next year, but the year after, they're going to get Clevenger, right? So
They get him back, yeah.
That's going to be, they're going to be ridiculous. For as far as the Cubs are concerned, I think if it's the best you could have got, then I guess you just take it. You're not winning anything anytime soon, really, most likely. If you want it to be like a middling team, you probably could, but I think it's better to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and set up for the future. It's something that, it's just good for any organization to do, being in the MLB purgatory or whatever, like the middling teams, is just not ideal. So, I think it's a win-win trade overall, but
yeah, the only thing is that they play in the NL Central, and it's so weak. They won it last year, and they really were not good at all last year. So, and the division hasn't gotten better. The Brewers haven't done anything. The Reds are selling, honestly. The Pirates are terrible, and the Cardinals are still just there, which, I think between the Cubs and the Cardinals, it's probably 2 similar teams. You may say the Cardinals are a little bit better, but they could easily win the division again next year. If they hadn't traded him. Now, there's no way you're going to win this division, even with how bad it is. You may still be competitive. Maybe you'll have a chance, but I'd be surprised, especially because even though they have a lot of good offensive players, the last 2 years they've been really bad. And Rizzo and Bryant, Baez hasn't been that good lately. Contreras is good, but they were even looking to trade him, which I'd be surprised if they traded him at least this year, just because that seems a little crazy to trade him, but most of these guys aren't really going to be here in the future. Bryant, I think he's a free agent after this year. He's probably gone. He probably definitely is gone. They're not going to pay him, so they'll probably trade him. Rizzo, you'll have to see. He's been there for a long time. Maybe they bring him back, but he's not going to add a lot of value. Baez is your best player, so they're definitely going to be a bottom tier team going in the future.
Yeah, as far as NL Central is concerned, even if you win the NL Central, I mean, how far are you going? Like maybe, I mean, you're not winning anything. You're not beating the Dodgers. You're not beating the Padres.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth it. I think trading Darvish for whatever you can get is probably fine.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe you could have gotten more. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, they looked at it probably like they could win the Central, but they're probably going to lose in, the wild card round, or I mean, in the division round. But you're right. Like they'd rather just get under the luxury tax and just rebuild with a new team than be kind of stuck in the middle. So I guess you can't
yeah,
blame them in that sense. But
yeah. I mean, it'll be
and then looking
interesting.
at it for what were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say it'll be interesting to see what other moves I don't know if they're going to make any other moves this offseason, but potentially next offseason, what their team looks like. Cause it would be weird if they trade Darvish for not overall that much. And then they try to make weird trades to stay competitive. Like plenty of teams have done that. I definitely don't want them to do that. There've been plenty of Boston teams that kind of sell and then kind of like make moves to stay competitive, which doesn't make sense to me. If you're trading Darvish for what you got, I think you're essentially saying like, look, we're not going to compete 2020, 21, 22, 23. We're probably looking for 2024 and beyond here. So,
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing because they're they're again they have offensive skilled players, but they just haven't been productive lately. So and they're pitching. I mean, your Darvish was your only good pitcher, so if you're trading him, you're definitely not looking to compete in 2021.
yeah. All right. Do you want to move on to, we'll move on to NBA stuff?
Yeah,
All right. So each team's played about like 4 games so far. I'd say there's been a solid amount of surprises so far. I don't know. Who do you think has been the most surprising team so far?
well, I mean, I would say surprising in a good way. I would say would be so far the Magic. I mean, they're 4-0. When going through our player predictions, I did have them being the 10 seed, but I had them still not making the playoffs after the play-in tournament. Again, it's only been 4 games, so you can't really, like they're 4-0, but I mean it's a 72 game season, so we'll have to see what happens. But they've definitely been looking good. I mean, Fultz has looked really good. He got the extension in the offseason. Cole Anthony, he's been pretty good off the bench, playing like 20 plus minutes a game. He's been pretty good. Terrence Ross, he's probably one of the best. I don't know if they're starting him or not, but he's usually like a six man. He's probably one of the best six man in the league. Pretty underrated. We'll have to see what happens with Aaron Gordon, though. It seemed like they were going to trade him kind of going into the season and maybe halfway through the season, but they're playing really well. Unless there's value for him, we can get something really good in return. I mean, you might as well just keep him because maybe he can actually turn into that player that you thought he was going to be. And then their best player, Vucevic, he's been pretty good so far this season too. So they've been pretty surprising in that aspect.
For me, the Magic, for some reason, I feel like every year they get off to like a solid start, and everybody like, oh, like the Magic are playing well. I've never really taken the Magic seriously as any. Like, I still think that the six best, or sorry, yeah, I want to say the six best teams in the East are still probably the six best. I technically, so I had Toronto as my 2 seed. I mean, they're 0-3 right now, so we'll see what things happen. But I would still take the Raptors over Orlando every day, every night in a playoff series if they were to match up together for some reason. As far as Gordon's concerned, you could potentially say things are a little bit less crowded without Isaac there. A full offseason, if you want to call it. Isaac not going to be there. Isaac signed the extension, but he's out for the year, right? So
Yeah,
he's not coming back. Yeah, not even. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we'll see on the Magic. I don't know what you do with Gordon. I guess I probably only trade him if you get an offer you can't refuse. But at the same time, I mean, the Magic have been stuck in this like 8-7 seed place for so long that at some point you have to think about making some big trades. Vucevic to me has always been a B to B plus player. Probably not even a top 3 player on a championship winning team, but by himself, with a solid enough team around him, he's been able to bring this Magic team to like, the 8-7 seed territory, which to me is cool. But at some point you just realize like, all right, we're not getting anywhere with this. So yeah, I mean, we'll see on the Magic. I definitely do not expect them to keep up this pace. I had them as my 9 seed. I think they'll probably be anywhere between 7 to 10. But I definitely see them at least getting into the play-in tournament. So yeah, surprising in a bad way. I mean, I guess I'll go to the Raptors. I predicted them as my 2 seed. They are 0-3. I mean, the roster just looks a lot worse compared to last year. Losing Gasol is not great. Losing Ibaka is not great. We'll see how the Raptors do. I'm definitely not like selling my stock on them. I still think they'll be a top 6 team. Maybe they are the 6th best out of all those teams in the East. But I still think that they have the potential to beat a Philly in a series, or have the potential to beat a team like that in a series. I'm not going to back down from that yet.
I mean, yeah, you're right. They're 0-3 so far. We said this before, but the Gasol and Ibaka departures were definitely bigger than I think people really wanted to say it was. They filled him in with Aaron Baines, who's he's good, but he's more of a backup center than a starting center, and Alex Len, who kind of bounced around. He's more of like a 9-10 guy on your bench, not so much as being a backup center that's going to play. So those are definitely big because I think you were probably hoping that Siakam was going to be a lot better than he was last season. At least for the
In the playoffs, yeah.
well,
I
yeah,
think
well,
he
the
still
second
he
half of
was
the season
yeah.
and the bubble and the playoffs, he was not good at all. He couldn't shoot, and it just seems like they were kind of hoping that he'd be like their one guy. I mean, Lowry's obviously getting older, so he's not going to be the same type of player. I mean, I guess he's still pretty good for his age and everything, but and you're hoping OG was going to be better. He's actually been pretty good this season, but it just seems like an older team that doesn't really have a guy they can give the ball to, and can get baskets whenever he really needs to. So again, I still think they'll be in the playoff team. Like them being 0-3 so far. I mean, they've had a pretty tough schedule, so I think they'll be fine. But they're definitely on the decline. With this Raptors team.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is with Lowry specifically. This is probably one of their last competitive years, if not their last. Yeah, I mean, I think the Raptors. It's going to depend on Siakam this season and in the future. I mean, Siakam has to play like I would say last year, before he started playing a lot worse. He was probably on the same tier as like Tatum, or same. I think you could say like it was a debate. Who would you rather have going forward? I think there was a genuine debate there. Now I definitely don't think there is at all. Tatum's played well, so it's but I mean it's really just Siakam has not played as well as people thought he would. Is he a number 2 on a championship team? I can't even say that anymore. He might not even be a number 2, and he might not develop into a number 2. I really don't know. I mean, he has to. He feels like Giannis, not nearly as good, obviously, but in the same way that it's like I just feel like their games aren't that refined yet. And I mean, for Siakam, it still means a lot though because he's played so well. He doesn't have a jump shot. I think his ball handling could still improve. I mean, there was the reason that the meme of like the spin started, and I think he has a lot to work on. Ultimately, if he can develop a jump shot first, I mean, that's going to help him a lot. But we'll see how Siakam turns out.
Yeah, and another team that's been pretty disappointing so far has been the Wizards. I had this team being in the playoffs for I think they were my 7 seed. I had them so, and again, it's still early, so it could change. But they've in the 4 games that they've played, they've only lost by like an average of like 8 points per game, and they've been at least in the first 3 games they've been leading going into the fourth quarter by double digits every single game. So it's really just the fourth quarters where they've been struggling. Um, you know, it seems like their defense. I mean, I've been watching them a little bit. Their defense, they definitely have trouble defending without fouling. It seems like the other team's always in the bonus every single quarter, and it seems like when they do get a stop, they rather turn the ball over, which they've been struggling with, or they just can't score. It seems like they're either trading buckets or no one's scoring. So they definitely need to work on their defensive efforts. They're getting Rui Hachimura back tonight, so that's going to be pretty big because it just lengthens the rotation, just one more guy, so that they were trying to do this 3-guard lineup that really just wasn't working. It's hard to have 3 guards in there when most teams, like you try to play small, but that's a little too small. Defensively, you're just not going to be as good, and rebounding wise, and you're hoping that on fast breaks you can be better. But it's you'd rather be better defensively, especially with a team that isn't good already defensively. So they still have two of the best players in the East. Two of the probably in the East, I'd say probably two top 10, top 12 players in the East. So they definitely should be better, and they probably will be better. But defensively, they're trying to fix some things, and then I think the wins will start coming.
Yeah, for me, this team, the reason I wasn't completely as sold on it as you were was because of the defense. I want to say last year they were the worst defensive team in the league.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think they were.
and frankly, I don't know that they've made any improvements on the defensive side. I guess Westbrook, if that counts, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think this team just has to improve defensively. Westbrook has been Westbrook, I feel like, for the most part.
Yeah, I
And we'll
mean,
see. We'll see how Hachimura impacts his team. I don't. I mean, I don't think he. I think he played probably better than people would expect in his rookie year. We'll see how this year goes from. Avdija has not played overall that much. He's shooting 37.5% from the field right now, but he's not taking that many shots. I mean, I'm not sure exactly. I mean, we'll see on Avdija. It's only been like 5 games, so 4 games, 5 games,
yeah,
5. So yeah, I mean, I think as long as this team improves defensively, they'll be where we thought they were, which is 7, 8, 9, 10. Better than that. I mean, I don't know how much better than that they could be. We'll see, but
yeah. I mean, if you look at the stats, they're putting up stats offensively. Like Beal's averaging 32, and Russ is averaging a triple double, but it seems like just watching them a little bit, it seems like something's off. But I think it will fix itself. It's only been 4 games, and Russ has only played in 3 games. He sat on the back to back, so they'll be better. And yeah, I think they'll definitely be in the play-in tournament, which is really all you need to do is just get into the play-in tournament. So uh, yeah, they'll probably be, depending if the Raptors fall or not, they'll be 7, 8, 9, 10. So
yeah, I think they'll be in the 7, 8, 9, 10 territory still.
yeah,
In the Western Conference, one team that I mean we can talk about right now. It's not too surprising, I guess. It's been 4 games, but the Nuggets are 1-3. I want to say that we both had them. We both had them as our number 1 seed.
yeah,
Um, Overall, they're still just. It's hard for me to take anything away from starting from this 1-3 start. Uh, it's a 1-3 start. It happens. I just. Well, I mean, we'll see. Porter's looked like Porter. He's put up a lot of points so far. I don't know. I'm not willing to say that defensively he's taken a step at all.
no,
Uh, and I think ultimately that's where he's going to have to improve if he wants to become what people think he can become. Because offensively, I mean, he's already there. He's been there for a solid amount of time now. We'll just have to see him improve defensively. And I think ultimately them being the number 1 seed is going to rely on that. I feel like for the most part, I can rely on Jokic to, do his thing and Murray as well. If Porter takes steps throughout the year, this team will be the number 1 seed. If not, they'll probably end up being in that, I don't know, 3 to 5 range, most likely, I want to say. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't know what you've taken away from the Nuggets start so far, but
yeah. Porter still hasn't improved defensively. He's still pretty lost. They're trying. I mean, they're playing him at the end of games because he's definitely good offensively enough to be able to play, but defensively he's definitely still struggling. So he's gonna have to improve on that. Murray, I know he missed a game. I don't know if that was because of rest or injury, but he's only shooting. He's averaging 18 points on 39% from the field, 36% from three. So he's not shooting it great so far. I mean, he's probably going to improve. Like, did you pick him for most improved or?
no, I didn't.
Okay, so well, I know that a lot of people have been picking him for most improved just because of what they saw in the playoffs. If he could play like that, then definitely they could be a number 1, no matter how good Porter can be. If Murray's not going to be able to play like that, it's going to be tough for them to get the number 1 seed. But I would expect him to at least be close to that level, at least close enough to where it's pretty much in par to what he was doing last season. And Jokic has been really good so far. I think he has 2 or 3 triple doubles, but he's averaging 24 and a half points, which, will probably come down, but when Murray starts getting better, but if he's an average, like, kind of like what he's doing now, maybe it's like 22, 11, and he's averaging 13 assists, which is kind of crazy. Maybe it's like 22, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, 10 assists, whatever. I think he could easily do that if he wanted to. So he's been really good, and I just think that it's only been 4 games. They lost. The first game was a crazy game that they lost. Then they played the Clippers on Christmas. That's a tough game. They beat the Rockets and then lost to the Kings again. So I don't know. I'm not going to put too much into it about them being 1-3 so far.
Yeah. I guess injury news. We'll talk about some injuries. Dinwiddie out for the year. Yeah, I know you were at least a lot higher on the Nets than I am. You probably are still higher. I mean, what are your takeaways from Dinwiddie?
Well, I mean, it definitely hurts because it's he was starting for them, which just added another ball handler and score. At least a guy who can create his own shot. So I mean, obviously, if KD and Kyrie you could do that, but then other than them two guys who can create their own shots, I'd say would be Dinwiddie and Levert. So now you're only down to one guy, other than the main two who can do that. So it definitely hurts in that aspect, and also just the rotation being lengthened. Now they're starting, Luaru Cabarro. It's not it's not ideal to be starting him. I mean, you still have Levert and Prince and Allen off the bench, which again, it's one of the best benches in the league, but it's going to hurt. I don't think in the regular season it's going to matter as much. When we get to the playoffs and the rotations, they get shorter. You're going to be playing 8-man, 9-man rotations. Not having him is definitely going to hurt. So I can't say anything so far, but when we get closer to the playoffs, it'll definitely affect them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. Regardless of my opinion on the Nets, I don't know that that Dinwiddie being out for the year would impact my decision on how far they go. I still don't know exactly how I feel about the Nets. I think KD and Kyrie have played about as well together as you could have expected so far throughout the first few games. I mean, we'll see. I don't. If this team makes the finals, I still don't think they win, and I don't know that Dinwiddie would be the difference maker in there. Maybe he would, though. I'm not exactly too sure. We'll see on that one. And looking at the Grizzlies, do you remember where you had the Grizzlies in your Western Conference? I don't think you had them, right?
I had them outside my top 10.
Yeah, so I had the Grizzlies 8th. John Morant is injured. How long is he out for again?
He's out 3 to 5 weeks. So, I mean, a month.
Yeah, I mean, so that definitely hurts the Grizzlies' chances of making the playoffs. It's the Grizzlies, with no injuries, even then, it's still a challenge for them to make the playoffs. Last year, they had a very nice start to the year. Kind of came back down to earth a little bit as the year went on. But I mean, not having Ja is a big deal. This Western Conference is already so competitive that if Ja does miss 3 to 5 weeks, which he's going to, I mean, I just don't know that they can even. That might just be it. Like it depends. I mean, it's going to depend on how they do in the next month. But
yeah,
if they go, I don't know, like 5 games under 500 in the next month, 6 games, like they're just done. I just don't know if they can get a top 10 seed just because this Western Conference is so competitive. If this was the East, I would not be worried at all. I still think that the Grizzlies in the East would be fine, but I mean, as is the Grizzlies already, don't have enough talent to solidify a playoff spot with Ja out, their best player out for 5 weeks. They might just be done.
Yeah, and not only is he out, but Jaren Jackson's also out. I don't know how long he's out for, but he's out. So that's your 2 best players who aren't playing. They're already 1-3. I mean, their starting lineup against the Celtics in their last game was Kyle Anderson, Jonas Valanciunas, Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks. I mean, that's not a good starting 5. We had Brandon Clark off the bench, which I really do like Brandon Clark. But without Ja, it's really without Ja. Even if Jaren was playing, you'd still probably be this team you are right now with your injuries because he's not good enough to be able to, like level everyone up and kind of take your team to a win. Ja is definitely more of that player, but Yeah, it was. I thought it was a stretch for you picking them to be in the playoffs in the first place. But obviously, even though Jaw's only out for a month, I mean, in this month they could easily lose. They could be, under. You could be like 10 games under 500 by the time he comes back, maybe more. So at that point, you're done. There's no point. There's no way you can get to the 10th seed.
Yeah, I think Jackson should be coming back soon. He was out for against the Celtics last night. But I mean, even then, it doesn't even matter. I don't think
Yeah.
Out being out for a month it's going to be tough for them. They have to play really well in the next month to have a chance.
Yeah.
But I think that covers most NBA news. I mean, again, my predictions for the most part still stand. I'm not going to back down from any of them yet. I mean, we'll see how stuff goes in the future. I think the one I'm most scared about would probably be Toronto. At the 2 seed just might have already been too high. It probably was too high. I think they're probably going to end up being somewhere in the 4 to 5 to 6 range.
I think one prediction for me and the Raptors. I mean, I had them in my 6 seed, which I think is reasonable, even with them being 0-3. So I'm not going to back off that. But I had the Pacers being the 8 seed, and then them losing and not even making the playoffs. I think going to the season, we were both thinking this, but they're probably going to struggle a little bit and then trade pieces, which they still might do. It's not like they won't, but they've looked pretty good so far. I mean, again, it's been 4 games, but Oladipo's looked a lot better than he did last season. Turner's been pretty good. I mean, he's always going to be good defensively. Sabonis is one of the best players in the East. And then you always have Brogdon, who could be 50, 40, 90 for you. So they've looked really good so far. I'd probably switch them in Toronto, honestly. If I had to choose, I think the Pacers are definitely a better team as long as they don't trade anyone and no one gets injured. So that's probably the one I probably would like to take back, only putting them higher. But again, we thought they were probably going to trade people. So I guess I can't really fault myself.
I still think they could trade Turner.
I think they still could too, but if they're going to
they could still trade Oladipo too. They could definitely still trade Oladipo. That's for sure.
I mean, if they're like a top 5 seed, though, do you think they trade them? I mean,
I still think they'd be willing to trade anybody. Yeah.
Like they're not going to win the championship, obviously. I mean, they're just not that good, but I guess you'd have to see what you get in return. It's all about your return value for Oladipo, or even him package returner, and maybe like McDermott or like a Turner McDermott, something like that. So I guess when it comes down to that time, we'll see. But
I mean, I'm just trying to think. I don't know what the most somebody would be willing to trade for. We'll just say Turner would be. Oladipo's a little bit of a different story. I think Turner would probably get more in return for than Oladipo, but
he'd have to go to the right team. I mean, there's only a certain he's really good defensively. He's not a great rebounder, even though he's like 7 foot. He can shoot, but he's not that good offensively. So he's more of like a role guy, not a role guy, but like on a championship level contender like team. He's gonna be your starting center, and he's just gonna be able to. You're basically asking him to just play defense and get you 12 to 14 points, which I mean that's still pretty good. But
yeah, I mean I think the Celtics in the offseason, I thought they were going to trade for Turner. Yeah. With the whole Gordon Hayward thing, essentially just better, I don't think Thompson's better than Turner, but
I think for the Celtics, I think Thompson is, considering you'd have to give up to get Turner. I think.
Well, right now, yeah, but what was supposed to potentially happen was it was essentially going to be. I don't know the specific details of the trade, but it was essentially going to be Hayward for Turner. It didn't work out because I think Ainge wanted more.
He wanted it was going to be Turner and McDermott, but he wanted rather Turner and Oladipo or Turner and Warner. That's what he wanted.
Yeah, I think Ainge just kind of got greedy there, to be honest. Yeah. I would have just done the trade because you essentially lost Hayward for nothing.
I mean, the only thing you did get was the trade exception. I mean, $28 million, but
yeah, I mean,
it's the biggest trade exception in history. So
I would say, I mean, I don't know if you like Thompson more than Turner, then I guess it was the right move. But I still would take Turner over Thompson, even on the Celtics. I still think I would rather have Turner. But
I mean, the better player is Turner, I would say. But I think for the Celtics, I feel like Thompson will be better. And yeah, I mean, I would say.
Thompson, I mean, for what like reasons?
I would say for the reasons that he can defend multiple positions. He's he's pretty good defensively. He's obviously a great rebounder, offensively and defensively. And you're not going to need him. I mean, he can always put up points if you. I mean, not put up points, but he can get you 8 to 10 points. By off rebounds or layups and pick and rolls and stuff. But I think he's. I just think for the Celtics, he's a better fit than Turner would be. That's all. But I
Maybe.
would say I think Turner's a better player, but I think for the Celtics team, I think Thompson is better.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see how things play out. Yeah, I think that's for the most part, that's basically everything that's gone on in the NBA.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else to say, we'll move on to the NFL. We'll just go straight into predictions for this week. This is the last week of the year, so
Yeah.
this is the last. This is essentially the last week to increase or better our records for the regular season predictions, at least. Right now, I'm 22-24. Brandon's 15-30. So we're both. I guess Brandon's playing for the number one pick. I'm fighting for that last playoff spot, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll go first here. My first game is Dolphins at Bills. Buffalo's a 3-point favorite. I'm taking Buffalo here. It comes down to it. So this game is going to come down to, who starts in Buffalo. From what I've been hearing and seeing, it looks like Allen's going to start, but there might be some other starters who don't start. It really is going to come down to that. But if Allen starts, which I think he will start, they're going to want the 2 seed. I'm going to take Buffalo in the 3 points. I also would say I don't know that the Miami is a playoff team, and yeah, I just don't know if they're a playoff team. I think that Cleveland, I think that Indianapolis, I think that Baltimore, I think Tennessee, I think they're better than Miami right now. So because of that, I'll pick the Buffalo. I'll pick Buffalo here.
Yeah. So my first game is also Miami and Buffalo. It's like what you're saying. So this is probably the toughest game out of the potential playoff teams. Like we said, like the Ravens are playing the Bengals. They'll probably win that game. Colts are playing the Jaguars. Titans are playing the Texans. Browns are playing the Steelers, but Big Ben isn't playing, and I assume maybe other starters aren't playing. I'm not sure, but I know he's not playing. So you'd assume the Browns would win that game. And then you have the Dolphins playing the Bills. So if the Steelers are it seems like they're kind of conceding that game. So if the Bills do win, then they do get the 2 seed. So that's maybe one thing that's in the Bills' favor. But again, this is definitely the toughest game out of those games. So I think if the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs, they're going to have to win this game. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins. Like I said, it was 3 points. So I'm going to take Miami on that. They need this game to get in. I mean, it just was announced that Fitzpatrick does have COVID. So it's going to be Tua the entire game. No matter how bad he's playing, it's going to be him. So that may be something to scare like some people off because he's just not looked great at times. But, if you have one game to get into the playoffs, I think you have to win this game. So I'm going to go Dolphins.
Quickly for the Dolphins, I think I'm willing to say that, obviously Fitzpatrick getting COVID is not a good thing, but as far as forcing Tua to be in this game for the whole duration, essentially, I think ultimately you're putting him in the spot where we're going to find out what he's made of.
Yeah.
Not that if he plays poorly this game, not that, he's a bust, but, does he have the grit? Is he one to win these games? I mean, ultimately we'll see. I don't know. I think this game will say a lot about Tua. I was bigger on Tua than you were going into the draft and in general. So I still have faith in Tua. I don't know that he wins this game. I'm picking he doesn't, but I'd like to see Tua play very well for me to have hope in, Flores, Tua, and the Dolphins organization going forward. I guess as a Patriots fan, I might be hoping that Tua does poorly and that, but I mean, we'll see. Next game, it's a pretty meaningless game. Jets at Patriots. The Jets are solidified in the number 2 pick right now, so they're essentially playing for Adam Gase's job. If I'm a Jets fan, I might even hope that they lose this game. Anyways, the Patriots are 3-point favorites at home. I'm going to take New England. 3 points doesn't seem like too much, actually. I know that the Jets recently, over the past 2 weeks, have played much better than the Patriots have the past couple weeks. But I'm still going to take the Patriots. I don't know. I think people are just too high on the Jets right now after 2 wins, even though overall, they're still just not a talented team at all. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Gase keeps his job. And when I say interesting, I mean, if he does, that's such a big mistake, in my opinion. I would fire him immediately right after the game. I think Belichick is just a better coach. I don't know that the Patriots offense is horrible, but is it horrible enough to lose this game against the Jets at home? I don't know. The Patriots have always been a great team at home. Gillette's big for them, even though it's not necessarily the same with the fans. But the Gillette home field advantage thing has never really been about the fans. It's just the Patriots just play super well from home. So yeah, I'll take the Patriots here.
Yeah, so my second game, I have Cowboys at Giants. It's -2 for Dallas, and I mean I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. This whoever wins this game, I mean depending on the Sunday night game. Again, if Washington loses, then whoever wins this game is the division winner. So I assume
Wait, I don't think that's true.
No, it is. If Washington loses, then whoever wins this game wins the division.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's based. I mean, for this game's at the 1 o'clock window, so we're not going to know until after Sunday night. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I think they're going to win the division. So obviously they're going to have to win this game in order to have a chance to do it. They're playing better. They're on a 3-game win streak. Again, you could say the teams that they've played, but they put up 30, 41, and 37. So you can't really. I mean, you put up more than 30 points per game over the last 3 games. It's nothing. You can't really look down at that, especially when they played a 49ers defense, which is pretty good, and they put up 41 against them. So the Giants, their defense is good, but but based on how their offense has played, their defense has been put in some tough situations. Jones, he even said it to reporters, I think yesterday, that he doesn't even know if he can make those same like throws outside the pocket that he was making earlier in the season because of his injuries. So I don't know if he's just saying that to try to trick people into thinking that he's still injured or not. He definitely looked better last week, at least with his legs, but he's definitely still injured. So because of that, and the way that our defense has been playing, I'm just going with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking the Cowboys are playing the Eagles as they literally played last week, but yeah, I'm also taking Dallas here. I just think they've played much better than the Cowboys. I'm still not sold on Joe Judge as a coach, as you said with, huh? What did
Cowboys
I say?
been playing the Giants.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But he said Cowboys were playing better than the Cowboys. So yeah.
So. Oh. Okay. Well, whatever. I'm still not sold on Joe Judge as a coach. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
Like you said with Jones, we'll see. Even if Jones is healthy, I'm just not. Yeah, I'm just still not sold on Jones. Obviously, you haven't had Saquon the whole year, so if you had Saquon, maybe the Giants with Saquon would win this division. I don't know, but you could say the same thing with the Cowboys and Dak. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how things play out. I'm sure you're not a big Saquon fan because, yeah, of course not. I mean, I'm not like a big Saquon person either. I just, of course, because, you have Zeke, that it's like.
Well, it's the same situation, just quickly. It's the same situation that we had to pick a running back. They picked him second. I mean, we picked Zeke fourth. I mean, you're not going to pay him when his contract's up. So it's 4 years and he got injured. So it's really 3 years.
I think they might pay him.
If they were to pay him, that'd be crazy.
I wouldn't. Well, I don't know about. I wouldn't, but if you're going to draft somebody second and he's going to play well, you'd assume you're paying him.
Yeah, but it's a running back. I mean, that's just
I wouldn't. But if you're drafting somebody second,
that's the problem with drafting running backs that high is that if you pay them, like we see with Zeke, they can easily decline or get injured. Hey, that's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a GM, I literally would never draft a running back in the first round. Probably not even in the second, maybe late second. But anyways. Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Dallas here for basically the same reasons you said. My next game is Falcons at Bucks. Tampa is favored by 7 points. I'm taking Tampa. It's not a super meaningful game, but I think for Tampa, you'd like to see a continuation of the past, I guess, 1 to 2 weeks. You'd like to see them play a little bit better than how they played against Atlanta 2 weeks ago, but again, it's just going to come down to how well is this offense playing going into the postseason. I'd like to see them carry some momentum. So yeah, because of that, I'll take Tampa to win this game. Also, Atlanta's playing for nothing. So
Yeah. For my game, I'm going with the Packers at the Bears. The Packers, they're favored by 5 points. The Bears need this game to be able to get into the playoffs, but the Packers still haven't secured the 1 seed yet, and I think they definitely want that 1 seed, so they're definitely going to try throughout this game. It's a 4:25 game, and the Saints and the Seahawks also play at 4:25, so they're not going to know who, if they won or lost, to know if they're going to be able to get the 1 seed. So they're still going to have to play the entire game. And they're definitely a better team than the Bears are, despite how the Bears have been playing recently. But again, those are against bad teams. And Mitch Trubisky, no matter what either of us think about him, I mean, he definitely isn't the best quarterback. So I don't know. I just see the Packers winning this game. And the Bears, I don't know. They're going to finish 8-8, and we'll see what happens with Trubisky, with Nagy, with Pace in the offseason. But the Packers are going to win this game. They're going to get the 1 seed. So
Yeah, I'm taking Packers as well. I've had the Packers as my 1 seed since whatever, like a month ago or something. I don't even know, but the Packers are a better team. Rodgers is going to win the MVP award most likely. At least that's what I think he's favored right now to win it. So
yeah,
Rodgers is going to win the MVP award. I think the Packers are going to win. I'm not a Trubisky guy. I think Trubisky, maybe he stays in the roster. I would just, if I could trade him for anything, I don't think you would be able to, but I would look elsewhere. I'm not giving Trubisky another year. I've already given him plenty of years. Training camp. I'll give him training camp maybe, but I mean, that's really about it. I mean, so we'll see. Nagy, assuming they don't make the playoffs, I'm firing Nagy. Even if they make the playoffs, I probably still do too, unless they go far, like win games. So we'll see on that. Yeah, but I'll take the Packers. I think they're just the better team overall. So yeah. Also with the Tampa Bay thing, another reason I'm taking Tampa Bay is, I think they want the 5 seed. So you'd like to play, either Dallas, Washington, or New York in the first round, because that's about as easy as a playoff game can get. And not that they're guaranteed to win. I'm just, they're a lot worse than the other teams you'd probably
yeah.
play. So
All right. For my next game, I have Raiders at Broncos. It's two teams that are out of it. There's nothing really to play for. I guess the Broncos technically draft position. I guess they just lose, but I'm actually going to go with the Broncos. It's 2.5 in favor of the Raiders, so I'm gonna go Broncos here. I think it would just be, the Raiders really should have lost, like, I think 6 games in a row. I mean, it was what, one, two, three, four. Yeah, six. I mean, they lost 5 out of the last 6, but I mean, one of those wins was the Jets win, so that really should have been a loss. So I don't know. I'm gonna pick them to lose. Kind of go out the season with a bad way. I think this is probably Carr's definitely his last year, so I don't know. I'm just gonna pick the Broncos, kind of to spoil the Raiders season finale, and kind of
who
just
do
have a
you?
send off for Carr.
So you think Carr's better than Trubisky or no?
Um, I guess in some aspects, make decision making wise, definitely. But even though Carr's kind of mobile, Trubisky is he's definitely more mobile. He can use his legs in different ways. In arm talent, I mean, they're rather the same, or Trubisky's better, honestly. I haven't really seen much from Carr with his arm that tells me that he's much better. So I'd probably say they're pretty similar. Yeah.
I think I would take Carr over Trubisky,
I mean,
yeah,
I probably
I think you probably would too. But I still think Carr's an objectively better player. I think arm talent, sure, they're probably about the same. I don't think either have outstanding arms. Like they're not making
no.
some of these Mahomes throws or whatever. But I think Carr's a better decision maker. Trubisky seems lost sometimes, even still. I would take Carr, but anyways, I was curious on that.
Yeah. And then for my last game, I have Seahawks at Niners. It's 6.5 in favor of the Seahawks. So I'm gonna go with the Niners. I still think the Seahawks will win the game, but I'm gonna go with the Niners here. The Seahawks have been playing a lot of close games. I mean, if you saw their game last week, it was 20. They won 20-9 against the Rams, but it was basically 6-6 for the entire game until the end. It was basically 2 drives that won that game by the Seahawks. So the 49ers are Probably a pretty similar defense to the Rams defense. When they feel like actually playing, they're pretty hard to move the ball against. So I don't know. I think it would just be an offensive. I think they'll both struggle offensively, and the Seahawks will win, like 20-16 or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know how this happened, but apparently I did my 5 games before you did 4. So
Yeah, it's because you did like 2 in a row when
it's because I think we had the same ones and whatever. Anyways,
it didn't matter. Yeah.
all right. Well, anyways, that's it. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. I think that was it.
All right. Yeah. Appreciate everyone who stayed till the end. Again, Twitter handles, all that stuff, social media, whatever, that'll be in the description in the YouTube video. So yeah, that's it. All right. We will be back, Sunday night?
Sunday night, yeah.
All right.